welcome to my channel. My name is Venus, and these are all of the books that I kind of, sorta, hopefully, maybe want to read in the month of March. So first of all, where have I been? It's been a couple weeks since I've filmed a video, and mostly just because I've been struggling with some seasonal depression, those like winter blues. I usually get them every year. Typically I can kind of push through, but this year it was pretty bad. Probably one of the worst years. I think just here in Maryland it's been very gloomy, and not having sunshine has definitely affected me. I don't think that I could ever live somewhere where it's mostly like overcast and rainy, because it just really affected my mood this month. So I just didn't feel like getting in front of a camera. I have been reading. February also was a horrible reading month. January was fantastic, so look forward to that wrap up soon. We'll call it recent reads because it's March and I'm trying to wrap up January. But so I'll be talking about all the great books that I read in the month of January, and then February is like completely different because I had like 5 or 6 DNFs. The 5 books that I did finish, I think only 2 of them I actually really loved, and the other 3 were just okay. So February was definitely an interesting reading month. Those are the books that some of you guys picked from my library stack, and then some that I said, oh, I'll read because they're short. It didn't matter that they were short because I hated them. But we'll talk about that later in another video. But today I wanted to just kind of talk about some books that I hope to read in the month of March. Again, definitely in a mood where it's just kind of like whatever I kind of feel like reading. So NetGalley has been very generous with me for some reason recently, and I've been getting approved for a lot of ARCs, and which I'm excited about, but a lot of them are coming out in March and April, so I have to kind of get caught up with reading them. So some of these are definitely, we'll go through those first, the NetGalley books that I need to try to prioritize, hopefully if I'm in the mood for them. So the first book that I'm actually reading right now, it came out last week, so I'm already late with my NetGalley review, but it is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi, by S.A. Chakraborty, and she wrote like the City of Brass trilogy. I think it was the Daevabad trilogy, and I've only got through the City of Brass. I did enjoy it, but I don't know, I was just interested in the concept of this book, and it is about Amina, who is a pirate, an older pirate who seems to have kind of retired, and she's living with her family and out, not pirating anymore, and a wealthy woman comes to her home and is propositioning her to help find her kidnapped granddaughter for a lot of money that would pretty much set up Amina's family for life. So she decides to take this offer, and I'm assuming there's gonna be lots of pirate stuff and sorcery. I'm like 10% into it, and so far it's okay. It has like a humorous tone to it, and in the very first, I want to say maybe like 10 or 15 pages, there's like a demon or creature attack, which was kind of exciting. So we'll see where that goes, but I have already started reading that, so that is one of the NetGalley ARCs that I need to get to. The next one is What Have We Done by Alex Finlay, and he is the author of The Night Shift, which I read last year. It was a new thriller that came out last year. It was actually on my most disappointed reads of 2022. It's the thriller where there's a murder that takes place at a Blockbuster, so I think all of us that read it who were kind of disappointed with it were assuming that it was going to have like all the 90s vibes, and that did not happen. And then it was just kind of an okay thriller for me. I don't even remember what rating I gave it. But so I did decide to give this author another chance, and they sent me the ARC for this, and I'm very glad that I did, because I actually just finished this book like on March 2nd or very early in the month, yesterday or the day before. And I'm not going to go too much into it. I'll talk about that in my wrap up, but it's a thriller. It's very fast paced, and it is in the point of view of 3 main characters. One is like a stay-at-home mom. One is this like producer for this like reality show about coal miners. And then the third POV is a like kind of like older rock star who's performing on cruise ships. So, and he's like an alcoholic. But they all have a shared history where they lived in a group home called, I think it's called Save Your Home, 25 years ago. And something that they were a part of, very tragic, deadly incident that happened, has come back to haunt them 25 years later. And it was a fun read. I'll say that. I recommend it. I think it comes out on March 7th. And if nothing else, get it from the library because I enjoyed it very much. So that's already read, but that's part of my March TBR. So the next NetGalley ARC I need to read is Blood Debts, and that is by Terry J. Benton-Walker. This is a young adult queer fantasy book. All I know is it takes place in New Orleans. There's generational magic in it, and it just sounded like a really cool premise. And yeah, that's all I know about it, honestly. It's a very long synopsis that I'm not even going to try to summarize, but basically, young adult fantasy queer takes place in New Orleans with some generational magic. That's all I know. And that is out on April 4th. The next arc that I have also comes out on April 4th, and that is Nick Blake and the Remarkables, The Manifestor Prophecy by Angie Thomas. Angie Thomas is the author of The Hate You Give and On the Come Up, both books that I absolutely loved. And this is her middle grade new series that's coming out, and I'm so excited to read this. I don't know actually what it's about. I just saw Angie Thomas had a middle grade debut, so I definitely was quick to request it. So I'm trying to, okay, this is a short synopsis. So it says, international best-selling superstar author Angie Thomas makes her middle grade debut with the launch of an inventive, hilarious, and suspenseful new contemporary fantasy trilogy inspired by African American history and folklore. It's not easy being a remarkable in the unremarkable world. Some things are cool, like getting a pet hellhound for your 12th birthday. Others, not so much, like not being trusted to learn magic because you might use it to take revenge on your annoying neighbor. All Nick Blake wants is to be a powerful manifestor like her dad. But before she has a chance to convince him to teach her the gift, a series of shocking revelations and terrifying events launch Nick and two friends on a hunt for a powerful magic tool she's never heard of, to save her father from imprisonment for a crime she refuses to believe that he committed. So that sounds really fun. March is also middle grade March, so I'm definitely excited to read that this month. Next arc I have is Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. She is the author of the Green Bone. She is the author of the Green Bone Saga trilogy, which I absolutely love, so I'm interested in reading anything that she puts out. This is a short story. I believe it's only like 160 pages, and it comes out on April 11th. And this is about, what is this about? So it says, Esther's family was torn apart when a manticore killed her mother and baby brother, leaving her with nothing but her father's painful silence and a single overwhelming need to kill the monsters that took her family. Esther's path leads her to the king's royal muse, where the giant rocks of legend are flown to hunt manticores by their brave and dedicated ruckers. Paired with a fledgling rock named Zara, Esther finds purpose and acclaim by devoting herself to a calling that demands absolute sacrifice and a creature that will never return her love. The terrifying partnership between woman and rock leads Esther not only on the Empire's most dangerous manticore hunt, but on a journey of perseverance and acceptance. So I love Fonda Lee's writing. I am really looking forward to reading this one, and I'm glad it's short because this list is definitely getting very long. So that's it for the NetGalley ARCs that I'm going to try to get to in March. Let's get to books that I have carried over from February. So first up is Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. I really intended to read this in February and just didn't get to it at all. Because I knew I wasn't in the mindset to read, even though I love this book and I've read it and it's a reread, I just wasn't in the mindset to get into like heavy fantasy. But I'm ready. I have started it a little bit. I think I'm only like in the prologue, which is so amazing. It's like coming back to me as I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am very excited to get back into this world. Song of Ice and Fire, one of my all-time favorite fantasy series, and hoping to finish this in the month of March. Next up, I've also started Kushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey. I'm enjoying this so much that I went ahead and bought my own copy of it, and because I had a library copy. I'm also listening to it on Scribd. It's so far a really, really interesting audiobook, and this is a fantasy book. It's a chunker, so I'm going to take my time through this. But I love the writing. It's very flowery. She just has a roundabout way of writing that probably has too many words that aren't needed, but it works, and I'm not upset about it. So far, I think I'm only on page 22, and this is about Phaedra, who has this mark called Kushiel's Dart. It's like a red spot in one of her eyes, and in this world, there are basically like courtesans. How do you say that? Courtesans. I don't know. I don't want to call them prostitutes. What would I don't know. Whatever you want to say. So in this book, this is a fantasy book, and it centers around Phaedra, she has like this red dot in her eye that's considered Kushiel's Dart. And when someone has this, they are chosen to forever experience pleasure and pain. And in this world, there's basically, brothels, pleasure houses where women are trained in the arts of pleasure. And that is kind of what happens in this book with Phaedra and with her special talents. But she is also, I'm assuming, what I understand, I'm only on page 25, going to be trained up to be like a spy, and it's very political, and there's a lot of books after this one, so I'm hoping that I like it. But so far, so good. Again, with this one, I'm also going to be taking my time with it, and I am doing a buddy read with someone who has read this series, so I can ask her a lot of questions, and I'm looking forward to getting into this one. So I said this year would be the year of Brandon Sanderson, so I am continuing on with the Mistborn series. I reread the first book in this series in January and loved it, just like I did the first time. So I'm going to continue on with the Well of Ascension. I have the audiobook for this, so I'm going to be listening to it and reading along with it, hopefully very soon. This one is a lot thicker than I thought it was, so I hope to get to this in March. But this is a fantasy book that centers around Vin, and in this world, the Dark Lord, like the evil one, is kind of ruling over everything. And it's a society where people called Ska are basically like slaves, and Vin, either you're a slave or you are a criminal. And Vin is, in the beginning of the first book, she is kind of working with this crew of criminals that treat her horribly, are physically abusive to her, but she has this power that none of them really understand that she uses. And then a gentleman named Kelsier comes along who has decided he wants to overthrow the Dark Lord. And he gets a group of people that so in this world, the magic system is elemency, and it's like pushing and pulling on different metals, and Vin can actually do it with all of the metals, so she is considered a Mistborn. And then other people that can just do one, I can't remember what they're called. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. But there's other people that can work different metals singularly, like one metal at a time. And so Kelsier gets a group of people together, and they try to overthrow the Dark Lord, and this picks up right after that. I actually have, oh my gosh, I don't usually start multiple books at once. Like, I've never done that. But I have like 5 books right now that I've started. So I'm on literally probably the first 15 minutes of the audiobook for this. But it sounds like it picks up right where the first book left off. So I'm hoping to get to this in March so I can finally move on and finish this trilogy. So moving on with my hopes to read a Stephen King book at least once a month or every other month. I didn't read Stephen King in February. I did read The Shining in January. So I'm going to reread Christine. I read this book probably 20 years ago. I loved it. I loved the movie. Every time the movie was on TV when I was younger, I would watch it. Probably shouldn't have liked that movie as much as I did at that age, but I did. So it's about a car, basically, that's possessed, that takes over this young boy's life, and he kind of starts getting an unhealthy relationship with this car named Christine. And I'm interested to see if I love this as much as I did 20 years ago. So looking forward to reading this. So my library does kind of like Zoom calls every few months or so where a bunch of the local librarians get together and they talk about all of the new upcoming releases that they really enjoyed and that they highly recommend. And this book was one of them, and that is Lone Women by Victor Lavalle. And I requested it from NetGalley, didn't hear anything back from them. Saw that it was going to be a book of the month pick, so I picked this as my March book of the month. It came in today. And guess what? I also got approved for the ARC. So hoping I really love this book. But this is considered a horror book from what I understand. And it just says, a woman with a past, a mysterious trunk, a town on the edge of nowhere, and a bracing new vision of the American West from the award-winning author of The Changeling, which I've never read anything by this author before. It takes place in 1915. So I don't know much about this. I just remember the librarian was really, really excited about this and was highly recommending it. And I love horror, so looking forward to reading this. It's not that long, so hopefully I will get through that pretty quickly. So that is it for the month of March so far. Don't know if I'm going to get to all of these, but those are books that I'm hoping to read. And then, you know, when you're a mood reader, you also just grab random books too. Things might come in through Libby or my library that I just decide to read. Some of these all kind of seem pretty heavy, so I might need something lighter to read. Might read a romance. You never know. But those are the books that I want to read for March. Let me know down below what your plans are for March. Excuse me. Have you read any of these books? Do you look forward to reading any of these? And yeah, that's all I got, guys. I'm hoping to get back on a weekly schedule with my books. Like I said, I have my January wrap-up that I need to do and my February wrap-up. I still want to do a behind-the-scenes video. Thank you for all of the questions that you guys have sent me on my community tab as well as on Instagram for just, you know, things you wanted to ask me about having a channel or questions for me personally. So if there's anything else, you can certainly drop that below as well, and I'll add it since I haven't started that video yet. But yeah, and I have a book haul coming as well. So I look forward to seeing you guys. If you're new here, please hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, I appreciate every one of you, and I will see you again soon. See ya.